واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. The sifa or quality which he explains after the ones we have previously gone over, and this the last one, so to speak, at least for us, will be kibr, which is roughly translated as pride. This, as I mentioned, is a quality which the ulama say is amrad. It is the mother of every and all evil, internal evil, and all spiritual wickedness is pride. Oftentimes, it all depends on who you are and your background. People have different ideas of what it means to be proud. Pride is not a gait. You know what a gait is, right? A walk, a certain style of walking. It is not having self-esteem. It is not having izzah of oneself. Pride is something different. Pride is that quality which denies a person from accepting the truth when and where they see it. It's the quality which, when a person possesses it, is unable to submit to the truth because they're proud. Right? This is the true definition of pride. Oftentimes when we see someone who is strong and confident, we say they're proud. Or if they stand up for themselves, we say they're proud. Nothing's further from the truth. Pride, rather, is the quality which prevents a person from recognizing the truth. And what prevents that person from recognizing the truth? Well, the Quran is very clear, and it's an ayah that many times, we like to quote many times, that Iblis was actually the first one to commit this sin. In the entire universe, the first act of disobedience was not a sin of shahawat, of your desires and passions. It wasn't drinking, it wasn't committing zina, it wasn't stealing, it wasn't any of these things. The first sin committed in the entire universe was pride. Aba wastakbara wa kana min al-kafirin. Meaning he refused to submit to the edict, the verdict, the hukm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which was usjud, make sajda. He refused. Aba wastakbara. Why? Because he thought that he was something special. Istakbara. Those of you who know Arabiya, istif'al. It's like, he's trying to play the role. He assumed that he's too smart, too good, too pious, actually. Right? And much better even from his very being, his very construction, meaning even just physically how he was created, he believed that he was better. Istakbara. So that pride prevented him from doing what? From submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now in that there is enough maw'idah for the rest of your whole life. Forget one session. To think about the context of this is that here's one who I said before who knows Allah. And in the Quran, he's quoted twice as saying, Inni akhaf Allah, Inni akhaf Allah Rabbal Alameen. It's not like Iblis was unaware of who he was disobeying. Yet, that disease is so bad that a person becomes so deluded that even they will, at that point, knowing who they are defying, a proud person will defy the truth, even though they know that their end is coming, right? They see the gun pointed at them and they know the trigger is going to be pulled. And at this time it would be good to do what? Istaslim. Not astakbir, right? I surrender. Not, oh, I'm going to keep my haughtiness and pride. I'm sticking to my opinion no matter what. I said the gun's about to be pulled, your opinion will be over in a matter of seconds, right? But no, the proud person refuses to accept the truth at any threat. It doesn't matter, nothing will happen. A proud person is a proud person. So Iblis knew very well who he was disobeying, but this is the disease. This is what happens because a person thinks so highly of themselves. This is the whole point. What was his whole reasoning? أَنَا خَيْرٌ مِّنْ خَلَقْتَنِي مِنْ نَارٍ وَخَلَقْتَهُ مِنْ طِينٍ. You created me from fire and he was created from dirt. So by our very essence, the unsur, our very, what makes us what we are as a species even, he can never be better than me. That deluded shaitan to the point, Iblis to the point that he was not able to submit to what he knows is true. Do you get the point? What he knows is true. This is not a matter of an opinion. He knows Allah is Allah. And he knows even that he's going to hell. This is how deeply psychological of a problem it is when someone is proud. Then he knows too that he's going to hell. Yet that's not going to change anything. Because he's so full of himself. He'd rather go to hell thinking he's better and he knows better and he's right than to submit to the truth. Now, if you want to know what pride is, that in essence is what makes pride. What is pride? That one, just because they think they're so special, will never ever submit to the truth, albeit even if they know. Like I said, the trigger is going to be pulled. In the case of Iblis, is much worse. He's going to Jahannam, right? And he knows it, yet he will not change. He will not make tawbah. He will not submit to the truth. That's why pride is a quality that the Prophet simply put said what? لا يدخل الجنة من كان في قلبه مثقال ذرة من خردل من كبر. Very simple hadith which most of us probably know. The person who has even an iota of pride in their heart will not enter Jannah. Do you understand the hadith now? Why? Because that iota of pride will always prevent you from submitting to the truth, to the point that even if you know you're going to hell like Iblis, you don't care. I'd rather be wrong and die wrong than submit to the truth. So it's a problem. This is one spiritual disease. We've talked about many. And sometimes these spiritual diseases, right, they can actually be tolerated to a certain degree. If you have a health problem, if you ask a doctor, there's terminal diseases, right? And then there's others that can be what? Cured, and there's also some that can just be dealt with, right? Their symptoms will not become a problem in your life if you watch your diet, take certain medicine, right? You understand? So we can even put everything in the physical has an equal in what? The spiritual. So there's some diseases you can eradicate completely. It's very much within the scope of our taqwa and our ability to eradicate these diseases completely from our lives. There are other diseases that are terminal. If they're there, you might as well give up because it's terminal. You're going to die with this. This disease will kill you. Kibr is a terminal disease. Do you understand? It's a terminal disease. Therefore, if you detect it, you have to remove it immediately. Before medicine improved, in the old days, if one was wounded and gangrene set in, they used to cut off the whole limb, right? Because otherwise, what will happen? Person will die. Right? In a matter of time, they won't survive. So kibr is such a disease that even if this iota is detected, it has to be removed immediately. It cannot remain because that kibr, even though it may be an iota, will send a person into what? To hell. So, but because many people are confused, right? What is kibr? It's exactly what I defined it as. That's why Rasulullah also said the same. Batrul haqq. It is to refuse the truth. When the truth comes to you, you refuse to acknowledge it. This is how the Prophet ﷺ described kibr. So this is not, we're not getting this from the middle of the air somewhere, like, oh, hey, let's just make this up as we go along. And this is how the Prophet described it. That's why the Sahaba and those who came after them understood very well what kibr is, whereas many times when we hear the word pride, we have different ideas because of a context, right? The way that we socially understand a person who's proud, so forth and so on. That's not what pride is here as a spiritual disease. Simply put, as the Prophet said, batrul haqq. It is to deny the truth. It's to deny the truth. Wa at-tawadu', which is called humility, is the opposite. So Imam al-Qushayri rahimahullah ta'ala said, tawadu is what? It is al-istislam. Al-istislam lil-haq. Wa tarku al-i'tirad ala al-hukm. That is the definition of tawadu, of humility, which means what? It is to submit to the truth and to not, how do I put it? To not refuse or to not put up any. There's a better word in English. Right now, forgive me, but it's to not argue with the hukm, meaning the edict, the verdict, the command. Do you understand the point? When something comes in front of you, someone tells you to do something and you know it's right and you know it's true. What is tawadu? Tawadu is to submit and to do what you're told, and not to give any arguments, not to do it like Shaitan did. Because if you see what did Iblis do, he did the exact opposite. He didn't want to do, and what did he do? He argued with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'tirad ala al-hukm. I can't make sajda to this person. Why? Because I'm better. And a khayrun min. So this is the idea. Tawadu is what? When the truth comes, you submit and you don't give any arguments anymore. That's why I said istaslim, right? You submit. Okay, I surrender. I recognize that, what's right is right, and I won't argue with you. That's the reality of tawadu. That's why Umar radiallahu anhu said that tawadu, humility, is not to put your head down and walk along amongst the people with your head down thinking, this is humility. Because a lot of times we have a lot of takalluf and a lot of, mashallah, we feign many things. You know what feigning is, right? We pretend to be many things. So many times you'll see people who have their head down, and mashallah, they give you a handshake with their fingertips, right? Oh, mashallah, brothers. Then later on, this humility, right? What does that humility make us do? If the truth comes to us, a lot of times the same people who will come in front of someone and say, Maulana Sahab, mashallah. And when Maulana Sahab says something, no, well, we don't have to listen to that. That's not humility. That's takalluf, you understand? That's a show of humility. Like, we respect you so much and we will put our head down. But, whatever you're saying, it's in one ear and out the other. Better to meet him as a man with your eyes up and your chin up and give them a good handshake and say, mashallah, assalamu alaikum. And then when they say something, what do? Sami'na wa ta'ana. That's humility. That I recognize the truth from whomever and wherever it comes. Now, if you look at this definition of pride, then it becomes a much different picture for us, right? Because all of us, to a certain extent, may exhibit a certain pride. So, for instance, someone may be from a certain background, linguistically, ahlul lugha, we know the language. So if someone who doesn't know the language tells us something, what do we say? They don't know anything. I understand the Quran, he doesn't understand the Quran. What is that? That's pride. It's pride. You understand? I know, he doesn't know, he's ajam. What do they know? Although, right, like Tariq al-Suwaidan in Dubai, he's a very popular preacher. He's not really an alim, but he once said that if I say it, then I'll be called proud. That's the funny part. If I say this, I'll be called a proud person. Oh, you're insulting us. Okay, alhamdulillah, mashallah. But if he says it, it's okay. Right? People can insult each other, right? So a Desi can insult a Desi, a white guy can insult a white guy, an Arab can insult an Arab. That's all okay. If somebody else does it, how dare you? Right? So anyhow, what did he say? He said, even compared to the Sahaba, which is true, the Arab of today linguistically are considered Ajim. You understand? The Sahaba, if they met the Arab of today, the way they conversate and use Amiyah, they would consider them Ajim. Like, who are these people? They're speaking Arabiya. That's why even according to the linguistics, the Afsahul Arab, the most eloquent Arab, were in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. If you look at the Tabaqat al-Shu'ara, in Hadith you have, for instance, Sahih, Hasan, Da'if, so forth. You have gradations of Hadith, right? In poetry too, there's gradations, meaning poetry is graded by the poet and also the poem. And what I mean by that is if you look in books of language, Arabic books or tafasir and explanations of the Quran, if they want to explain a word, They'll say the Arab understood this word to mean kada wa kada. It means this or it means that. What is their proof? They'll use poetry, shi'r. How do we know the Arabs use this word this way? Is through their shi'r, their ash'ar, their poetry. And which poetry is the highest form of dalil? Just like in hadith you have sahih, right? I understand all these great dates, right? Whose poetry is considered to be the afsahul Arab? If they use this word, that's how the word is truly understood in the Arab with the Arab. It is the poetry of Jahiliyyah or the poetry of those people who lived in both Jahiliyyah and the dawn of Islam, meaning the Sahaba. These are afsahul Arab. These are the most eloquent of all Arabs. If they use the word a certain way, that's how the Arabic really is. And as each generation comes, Banu Umayyah and all these different generations, the Arabic gets weaker. So they say these people, the dalil of their ash'ar is what? It's weaker. Their Arabic wasn't as good as the Arabic of what? The people who came before them. So that's humility. Humility is to see the truth in front of you and say, yes, okay, khair, yeah, that's true. That will never happen. Why? Because, bechara, you guys, if you don't understand Arabiya, and if someone doesn't understand Arabiya, they already got one against you, right? So one would rather much come to the masjid and just say, I'm Arab and I'm going to lead the salah, than let all these ajam lead the salah, right? Instead of admitting that, well, you know, our Arabi also, right? We're not like the Sahaba. It's not like everything in the Quran we understand. It's not like every single hadith we understand. They won't admit that to you, right? Because why? This is pride. Just like too, one community thinks they're more religious than the other. Why? Because our country is the country of the pure. Right? We're all poor and humble and we're very practicing people. The rest of the Muslims, they don't practice their deen. We practice our deen. This is also pride. This is pride. Why? Because if someone who's not from you comes and tells you the truth, what will you do? The Arab will say he's Ajam and the other ones will say he's Arab. Everyone will point fingers at each other. The Arab will say he's Ajam and the Ajam will say he's Arab. Neither one of these, no, they're both, you understand? Oh, no. The problem is he's Arab. And the Arab will say the problem is he's Ajam. So everyone's what? Everyone's stuck in the same problem, which is what? If the truth comes from a Martian, forgive me from using such a weird example, but if someone came from Mars, if there was life on Mars and they came down and they told you the truth, you know what you do if you're humble? You accept it. Oh, he's a Martian, so what? He told me the truth, right? He's a Martian, he doesn't speak English. He's a foreigner, he's an Arab, he's an Ajam, he's whatever he is. He spoke the truth, it's the truth, I submit. No problem. Even Shaitan can speak the truth. Abu Hurairah anhu learned about Ayatul Kursi from who? Shaitan. Every once in a while, Iblis also can speak the truth. So humility allows a person to do what? When and where they find the truth, they accept it. It doesn't matter who it comes from, whether I like the person's topi or not, right? I don't like the way he speaks. I don't like the way he moves. I don't like the way he walks. Humility is the ability for someone to what? Overcome all of that and say, if this person is telling me the truth, then I must admit. It should be such a quality that we developed it even if you're enemies. Now, the ajib thing is some shuyukh say, actually, if you really want to be fair about your faults, you should listen to someone of the i'tirad of your enemies. You're going to be fair to yourself? Listen to what your enemies have to say about you. Albeit most of the things that your enemies say about you will just be a lot of hatred, no doubt. But that's why you're enemy, because they don't like you, right? But every once in a while too, like Shaitan is aduwwun mubin, right? He's your open enemy. What did he say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? That most humanity you will find them ungrateful. This is a criticism from your open enemy. Is this criticism true? SubhanAllah. And so sometimes you have to pay attention to what your enemy is saying, because maybe once in a while your enemy is actually knows something about you that you don't want to admit. You've got this issue. And you say, oh, no. Or you say, you know what, actually, we do have that problem. This is actually ultimate humility and tawadu. The ultimate humility and tawadu is when even a person has gone to that extent that even they will allow the criticisms of their own enemies. If it's true, they will accept it. They will accept it. That's right. Now that takes practice, right? And that should be something that comes to us naturally, because as a believer, as we see the Prophet ﷺ said, you can't enter Jannah if even an iota of kibr is in your heart. So as believers, this should be just natural to us. That kind of humility. Al-hikmatu daratul mu'min. Yes, I know that this hadith is not Sound, let's put it that way, right? But the meaning is sound. That wisdom is the lost animal of a believer. What does that mean? Wherever you find truth and wisdom, you take it. Wherever you find truth and wisdom, what do? You take it. You don't become proud and say, oh, that's the ghayr. You understand? That's the other people. That's what they do. Sometimes the other people may have some methodology that's better than yours. The Prophet ﷺ in his own lifetime actually sent, I forget his name, and he actually sent one of the Sahaba to Rome to learn how to make a catapult. Why? Because it's an ala, it's a tool that will help the Muslims. And they should learn it. They shouldn't be proud and say, oh, these are the ghayr. This is Rome. Right? They're our enemies. We're not supposed to learn from them. But what do? If there's something there that we need to benefit from, then al-hikmatu daratul mu'min. We take it. It's alhamdulillah. So the Prophet ﷺ actually instructed him, go and learn. Come back to us and teach us how to make a catapult. Because this is useful for us. Because if they have it and we don't, they have an advantage. Right? So we need to know these things. So it's not, pride. It makes a person, belittles a person in every way. So even when they're not able to recognize good where it is, they won't be able to take it, and so therefore they will hurt themselves. That's why we have another hadith where the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man takabbara wada'ahu Allah." Whoever tries to become proud, Allah will put them down. Wada'ahu Allah, will put them down. And whoever tawada'a, man tawada'a rafa'ahu Allah. And whoever has humility, then Allah will do what? Raise him up. Raise him up. That's why the Prophet was so beloved, وَرَفَعْنَا لَكَ ذِكْرَكَ, that his name was raised because ultimately he was the most humble of all people. Even though, the ajib thing is that even though if anyone in the world had the right, so to speak, to be haughty, it would have been the Prophet, because he's the messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he's the last of them, best of them, and he didn't do anything except that it was right and it was true. وَمَا يُنْتِكَ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ, everything he said was true and right and correct and loved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even those quote-unquote mistakes were not sins. You understand? They weren't ma'asiyah and sin. So and they were corrected in his lifetime, as the ulama said. So that means that yes, everything he said and did was true. Okay? It was accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore he, if anyone in humanity, had the right, if you look at it from that point, if you look at it logically, right, rationally, right, if you were given that maqam, if it was you were an ayn, that's why Allah knows, right, where to put haythu yaj'alu risalata. He knows who to give prophethood to and who not to. So if you and I had that, right, like, oh, you know what, everything I say is true, how would we behave? Everything I say is true, everything I say is right. I'm always right. I'm always right. How would you behave after that? I said, I'm always right. You be quiet. And you too. And you also. And did the Prophet do that? No. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Why? And look at what he said. أَنَا سَيْدٌ وَلْدِ آدَمْ وَلَا فَخْرٍ. I am the leader of all mankind without any pride. No pride. No fakhr whatsoever. Because he recognized that, first of all, I'm not right because I'm right. You understand? In and of myself, like Shaitan, Iblis thought he was right because of what? Because I am better as my being, me, I'm the superior race, the master race, right? And a khayrun min, which in this case is not a human race, he's a different species, right? So when people say racism, they say Shaitan was the first racist, Iblis was the first racist. I say that's a mistake of wording. Why? Because he wasn't a human, he was a different species. So you can't call it racism, so to speak, right? It's like you saying, like, I'm better than these animals. I mean, But even that much, why did Allah not like this statement? Because simply put, he did not submit to the truth, which is what? Actually, Adam alayhi salam is better than you. Even though you may think that as a species you've been created with something superior and you have superior potentials and superior intellect, the reality is Adam has a secret alayhi salam that you don't. And you don't have to worry about it whether you understand it or not. All you have to do is follow the edict, the order, the hukm. Usjud. That's it. Submit. Anyhow, khair. So, right. What was I saying anyhow before that? SubhanAllah. Right. If the Prophet was anyone had the right to be haughty, it would have been the Prophet. But the Prophet did not do that because he had this reality. وَلَا فَخْرٍ. That anything I have is not because of me, it is because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says what? Al-'adamatu izari wa kibriya'u ridai faman na'za'ani fihima. There's actually the different version. I've never seen this version of the hadith. But anyhow, what did he say? That grandeur is my loincloth, so to speak. Now, obviously, you know, this doesn't apply to Allah. These are just sifat. These are qualities which are used in the hadith and Quran. The reality of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is far beyond that we can imagine or think or even compare Him to anything created. So don't start going in that direction. Why izar? You know, izar is a lungi, right? And pride is my cloak. So whoever tries to snatch these two from me, then I will put that person into hell. I will put that person where? Into hell. This is what the Prophet knows. Because the only being who has the right to be proud, because in and of their very essence, they are always right, if you want to put it that way, is who? Is who? Allah. In other words, even the Prophet, although he's the best of the creation, because he's created, he is dependent on who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he's right because Allah is inspiring him. He's right because Allah is guiding him. He's right because Allah is protecting him. This is isma, right? Allah. He's right because Allah, that's why he said la fakhr. But Allah in and of himself, his very that. Do you understand the point? His very being. Allah cannot be qualified as being wrong or a zalim or any of these things. Whatever Allah does is right. So the only being who has kibriya or has the right to be proud is who? Allah. Because even if you were to deny Him and His order, will it make any difference? No. Doesn't make any difference. You don't obey, it doesn't matter. Right? The whole world could disobey Allah, so it won't matter. Whatever Allah wants to happen is still going to happen. So Allah is the only being who is perfect and has no defaults. Even if you were to say, then what's the fault of the Prophet? It's not a fault per se, but it is what we call nuqsan, naqa'is. It is a defect. What is it? He's created. And anything is created is by definition dependent. And anything is dependent is not by definition what? Perfect. The only perfect being, we can say Rasulullah was the most perfect human being. Jibreel alayhi salam, if you take that opinion, was the most perfect of the malaika, so forth and so on, right? But the most perfect being is who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again, if one understands this, then one also understands why you cannot be proud. Because even if you're right, why are you right? Right? Because Allah guided you. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you the tawfiq. If it wasn't for that, could you claim that I have the truth? No. Nobody can claim that. Only if Allah guides you will you know what is right and what is wrong, what is true and what is not. So nobody has the right to be proud. Even if you've read every book in the world. There's another thing, it's funny, people think that, people do this a lot too. And sometimes someone will say, I don't know anything, right? A very educated, learned man, a person who reads a lot, even in deen, right? They've read thousands of books. And mashallah, they've memorized most of this and they're very intelligent. And people will say like, what? I don't know anything. As this is a statement of humility. Right? But let's look at this for a second. Even if I read every book there is on earth, even if I did that, and I just know so many hundreds and thousands of hadith, the whole Quran, this language, that language, logic, this, that, the other, you name it. I'm just a master of sciences, of the funun. If you look for a second, when we talk about knowledge, the ilm of Allah, what is the knowledge of Allah? Do you understand my point? The knowledge of Allah is connected to everything. When we say everything, we say those things which are possible, mumkin, and those things which are impossible. Things that you and I would say they're impossible logically. In other words, Allah's knowledge is not, to make it simple, is not limited to time, space, and place. Now, even when we look at those things which are possible, أَحَاطَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عِلْمًا, Allah's knowledge is not limited by time, space, and place. If we were to look at possibilities, right? Just the word possibility, what's possible? Take one thing in your life, just one moment in your life, and just look at it for a second and see how many possibilities there are. For instance, you're driving on North Avenue, and you want to take a right to come into Dar al-Salam. Instead of taking a right, you could have taken a left. You could have reversed. You could have gone straight. You could have taken a right at a slightly different angle, or a 95-degree angle. Look at just there in that one moment in your life, how many possibilities are there? And when that happens too, if I took a right this way, where would I be? Would I run into the curb? Would I run into the tree? If I did a 20 or 95-degree angle the other way in the left, would a car hit me? If I reversed, would a truck smash me? If I went straight, would I catch the light or not catch it? How many possibilities are there in that one moment in time? How many? If you really started thinking about it, there's thousands, even more than that. Now think to yourself for a second that Allah knows all that too, without learning it. He doesn't have to learn these things or acquire these things. He knew all that already. You understand my point? Now when you understand Allah's knowledge like that even if I read every book in the world compared to Allah's knowledge, what do you know actually? Nothing. This is not a statement of humility, it's a statement of what? Of fact. That I really don't know anything actually. There are so many things out there that even in this world, physically even, we don't have knowledge of, despite all of our technology and despite all of our advancements and mashallah, so many things. There are so many things right here in this world that we are unaware of. Some say even in the rainforest in Brazil, there are thousands of species which are yet to be discovered. In just a small corner of this world, which is defined, it has hudud, right? It's limited. وَحَاطَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عِلْمًا, and also adada. Everything in this world, even though to us that's mind-boggling, right? That subhanAllah, in the Brazilian rainforest alone, there may be thousands of species that we don't even know about, but to Allah that's still what? Adada, it's ma'dood, it's limited. It's limited. There's a limit to it. So on everything in this world, it is bimiqdar. Everything in the universe, forget this world, is bimiqdar. It is limited, it is quantifiable. It is very, 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 and compared to what Allah knows, it is nothing. Literally, quite literally, what? Nothing. Do you get the point? So even if you were to know all that my knowledge isn't even relegated to what's in this world. Now I know what's in space, and I know what's beyond that. And that your knowledge is what? Limited. Bimiqdar. So no matter how much you know, the reality is with Allah's knowledge, what do you know? Nothing. Sifr. So it's not that you're trying to make yourself, if you actually still believe that I know something because I read a book, subhanAllah, then you just to be reminded, right, who Allah is. Then you realize that, you know what, no matter how much I read, how much I understand, how much I can comprehend, in reality I know what? Nothing. Is a statement not of humility, it is a statement of reality. So ultimately, how then does one get rid of kibr? It's a very simple process. Increase your knowledge of Allah, of wahdaniyah and the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And understand the difference between a perfect being and a being which is imperfect, as full of naqais. Even if your only imperfection is that you need Allah, that's enough. That's more than enough for you to say what? I am nothing. Inni abdullah. I am simply what? The slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now if you go back to what I said earlier, that doesn't mean that a person again should exhibit qualities of, like for instance, what they think is humility. Like Umar radiallahu anhu said, it's not humility to keep your head down. As you walk around, one time we were in Pakistan, and one of our fellow mates from England was with us, and he said it in a pretty funny way. He said, don't go back home, he meant England and America, and think that humility means like keep your head down, and then some guy like in England, right, he'll say like, oh, look at these Muslims, these weak Muslims, let's go kick him, By the way, in England, this is the difference, the community in England is a little different than the community here. So that's also why we should not always compare ourselves to other Muslim minority communities in different parts of the Western world. First of all, majority of the Muslims in England are working class. They're not the educated and the elite. Majority of the Muslims in America most of the time are what? The educated and the elite. There's much different dynamic there. Second of all, Europe is different. England is literally where the English are from. That's their home for thousands of years. So they're not as welcoming as, it's just human nature, They're not just like, oh, hey, come in here and do whatever you want. They're like, wait a second, this is our home and this has been our home for thousands of years, right? So it's a different dynamic. Why am I saying that? Because in the 70s and 80s, when there was large waves of immigrants from Pakistan and India and Muslims, they used to have this thing. There was a neo-Nazi racist organization called the National Front, and they used to get together in gangs and they used to go what's called paki bashing, meaning they would find, Asian immigrants and they would beat them up until eventually the Asian immigrants learned how to fight. Because that's the only way out. You can't run away from this. Eventually you have to know how to what? You have to learn how to fight. Otherwise they're going to go paki bashing and you're going to beat up every day. So eventually they had to get tough. When I told the ulama, like Maulana Ahmed Ali came here and I told them, they laughed because it's true. All the, mashallah, Asians in England know how to fight. Why? Because they were forced to. You don't have a choice. Right? Otherwise these guys are going to come and give you a black eye every day or even worse. Right? So they had to do what? They had to stick up for themselves. So what did he say? Don't go back to England like this. Right? Because one of those guys would come, oh great, paki bashing, look at this guy, we can just go, wonderful, he's just go up and do whatever you want. That's not humility. It's not humility. So you don't encourage that kind of behavior. This is called dhaleel. You're a person now that anyone can do whatever they want with. This is dhilla, right? You're just, oh no. We need to teach our children and our generations that they should have self-respect. They should have izzah. They should have honor for themselves. And they should carry themselves in a confident way. There's nothing wrong with that. They should be confident. But humility is not that. It's not to display this, oh, I'm so broken, inkisar, like, oh. No. Humility is exactly this, as the Prophet is. We just explained. It is to accept the truth where it comes to you from whoever it comes from. You understand? Whoever it comes from. Because that's why ghamsun nas, meaning looking down on people, is part of it. Because when you look down on people, then you will never accept if they bring the truth in front of you. You understand? If you think you're better than them, whether it's the Arab over the Ajam or the Arab over the Ajam, or the Ajam over the Arab, which the Prophet said, what? La fadla la Arabiyan ala al-Ajmi wa la al-Ajmi ala al-Arab. Right or wrong? That there's no true degree and rank that an Arab has over an Ajam, nor an Ajam over an Arab. So he's telling all of you what? Stop all that. If the truth comes, and whoever it comes from, accept it. Khalas. Whether he's Ajam and Arab or Arab, it doesn't matter. In other hadith, true, Rasulullah also said from what? Black or white or black. And so he just basically squashed all of that. That whoever tells you the truth, whoever brings the truth to you, accept it. Don't become haughty and arrogant and think by my very nature, because I'm Arab or because I'm Ajam, because I'm white or because I'm black, whatever it may be, that I don't need to listen to these people. I don't need to. Why? Because ana khayru min. Because I'm better than them. It's simple. Right? Astaghfirullah. I understand the language, they don't. I'm more pious, they aren't pious. We're more intelligent. Don't you see what we've built? Our grand civilization. We're the superior race, right? That's our people. That's my people. I shouldn't say, all right? Don't you see all these things we've done? Nobody else can do these things. Aren't we better? This is all what? Pride. So you won't accept the truth when it comes to you. Now, hopefully, none of us have this disease. Bi'idhnillah. If you recognize it, of course, then one has to understand that this terminal disease has to be eradicated immediately. So the easiest way to do it is what? If you catch yourself doing that, why am I not admitting the truth when the person says it to me? Is it because he's Desi? Is it because he's Arab? Is it because he's white? Is it because he's black? If the answer is yes, there's a danger sign right there. Danger sign. Right? It's a warning. You've got an issue. That's pride. And you need to get rid of that. Wherever the truth comes from, I accept it wholeheartedly. So from now on, no matter how hard it may be, that's why I said actually the hardest bitter pill to swallow about this disease is take it to even to the extent that when your enemies have criticisms of you, you should pay attention to that too. Yes, majority of it will just be slander and lies and hatred, no doubt. But every once in a while, if you're paying attention, your enemy may have a point. May have a point. Here they are right. We do that. right? You understand? So if you really want to know, like we said earlier, hasad, what's the hard way, what the easiest way of getting rid of it? Make dua for the person who is mahsood, who you're jealous of. Ask Allah to increase them or whatever it is you're jealous of, that Ya Allah give them more. So here also the bitter pill is not just to accept the truth everywhere it is, but even to start giving ear to your enemies. Even to your enemies. What do they have to say about me? If you're that humble, doesn't mean you have to accept everything again, right? But then you've known that, yes, okay, now I'm willing to take the truth wherever it comes from, even if the truth comes from who? My own enemy. It is said once Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah ta'ala, when he was walking down the road, he accidentally stepped on a small child's foot by accident. And the small child said, Ya Shaykh, ittaqillah, amma akhaf Allah. Right? Fear Allah. What's wrong with you? Don't you fear Allah? But you know what the ajib thing is? It said Imam Abu Hanifa, when he heard that, passed out. He passed out. From a small child. The child doesn't know what he's saying, right? Sibyan, they don't know what they're saying. It's not like he's like, he's got this incredible point of fiqh or something that he made to him. The child's just talking. Children just say things, right? When you have children, so they just say things to you, and you're like, subhanAllah, how did you say that? I don't love you anymore. I mean, children just what? They just say things. Right? But because he was so humble, that's why Sufyan al-Thawri, rahimahullah, by the way, there was that kind of, academic, if you want to call it, competition there. Ulama have it too, right? Sufyan al-Thawri, rahimahullah, was also a scholar who was contemporary in his time, but when Sufyan al-Thawri, rahimahullah, heard this story, he cried. Because he knew what this is. This, you see, he has such humility, subhanallah, such humility, that even if a child were to tell him, ittaqillah, he'd pass out. A child. If a child was to tell us something, what would we do? Yeah. Who are you, right? Why are you telling me anything? Hey, Baba, I noticed you did this. What? Mind your own business. Right? So, but that's the humility of our predecessors, that even that small child's remark was enough to make him pass out, unconscious. It's like, subhanAllah. That's really a beautiful story. If you really think about and ponder, that's the essence of humility. That no matter where it comes from, when the truth hits you, what do? Sami'ana wa ta'ana. I'm done. Istislam, as Imam al-Qushayri said. Istislam, I submit. No problem. They used to say wisdom from the mouth of babes, right? That's what they said in the Bible. Right? Wisdom coming from the mouth of children. They said that was one of the signs of the last days. Ajib. Which is also, there's a hadith that the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the last days, the minbar also will be occupied by young men. Allahu Akbar. You understand? By young men. That will be also one of the signs. All the youth will be on top speaking. Again, I'm not trying, don't take me wrong now, don't start criticizing all these other people, whatever, like, it's only young people, whatever, alhamdulillah. It's because we're in a desert. Right now we don't have the resources, right? And when you don't have the resources, what do? You take what you need and what you can get. And one day these guys will become elders too, mashallah. They will become the akabir and the shuyukh, and we hope that they will be full of wisdom and much more knowledge than they have now. But all I'm just trying to say, this is a statement of fact. The Prophet ﷺ said these things would happen, and they are happening. Right? We see them before our eyes, so we should just say, Sadaqa Rasulullah ﷺ. This is a reality. So I'll leave it this so we can have some time for questions and not go over time. One thing too is that the ulama do make a difference, the shuyukh of this science, tazkiyah. There is a difference between ujub and kibr. Okay. Kibr is that quality, as we mentioned, that when it prevents you from accepting the truth and you look down on other people. Okay. Ujub is when you do feel that you're better than someone in whatever it may be, but you don't necessarily look down on them to the point where you will not accept the truth. You understand the difference? So let's say I'm an athlete, right? And I know I got a better 3-point shot than this guy, right? Like, I can do it, he can't. And so you're confident. You say, hey, you know what? Yeah, I'm a better player than him because I can do this and he can't. That's ujub. You got it? This is ujub. Like you think that, I'm something special. Like, you have a jab. You think that I'm good. I'm really good at what I am, right? Now they say that this is not a disease of the heart. This is not a problem. Although one should still be careful, because at any moment that ujub could become what? Pride. The only way you know is that if you're conceited, that's what they would translate ujub as, you're conceited, right? You know how we say, oh, you're conceited, you think you're really special, right? Like, oh, I'm just so handsome, mashallah, right? No, I'm just so smart, look at my grade results. Again, athletes, everyone, look at how good I am. Nobody beats me at my game. Michael Jordan, right? He's not better than me. He says it all the time, right? He didn't do what I did. I'm better. It's ujub, conceit. The ulama say that this is not a problem unless it becomes pride. Okay? Do you understand? Conceit is not a problem per se. It won't take you to hell unless you make it pride. Meaning that, let's say that player actually ends up becoming better than you, and you still deny it. Someone gets a better test result than you, and you're like, oh, that's because that was all conspiracy, right? I didn't really prepare, and he got lucky. Whatever it may be. You can't do that. That's when it becomes pride. Otherwise, ujub is not necessarily a problem. And sometimes also we should not always try to tell people that they're conceited. I remember a long time ago someone was correcting something I said, and the reality was he was wrong because he didn't even understand what I said. But the point is, at the end of the day, when I told him that the ayah he was using as dalil against me, I said, I read this ayah, and what you're saying about this ayah is not correct, because the tafsir and everything, the usloob of the ayah, the language, it's just, this guy didn't have any knowledge to begin with. And I'm not saying this arrogantly, he didn't study, right? So then he's telling me this quote of Umar anhu, that those who think they know don't know anything. Meaning he's trying to tell me like you shouldn't say that, I know. I said, Akhi, actually, let me ask you a question. Do you know your own name? He said, yes. I said, can I argue with you about that? Can I tell you that your name is not your name and that you don't know your name? You understand my point? No, I mean, I know this. My name is my name, and no one can tell you differently, right? So, okay, akhi, there's certain things that, yes, you know it, right? And if you know it, you know it. It's not arrogance. You understand? You say, alhamdulillah, Allah Ta'ala has given me this much knowledge. I know this, I might not know everything, and we don't know everything. That's the truth. But I do know this. I know my own name, and you can't argue with me about my name, can you? Like, oh, that's not your name. Your father actually called you this. What are you talking about? You can't do that. So you understand, we have to be careful about what we also, again, like yesterday, we have to be careful about how we judge other people. We also have to be careful about how we judge people in this regard too, like, oh, they're proud. Why, he's full of himself, he's full of conceit and ujub. Why, because he thinks he knows something. SubhanAllah. Right? Or he thinks that he's accomplished. Well, what if he is? As long as he doesn't look down on you, and as long as they're not saying that they're better than you, and they're even giving you an ear. If a person was truly proud, if you came and corrected them, what would they do? I don't even want to hear it. Right? From you, I don't want to even hear it. Right? I don't have time for that. Go away. That's pride. It's not pride to sometimes to understand that you have accomplishments, and to even sometimes, there are times when a person needs other people to know their accomplishments, not because you are better, but because, like one brother asked me, for instance, who should be the imam? This happens a lot, right? There's another sign of the last days. You will go and you will find that no one will be able to lead the salah. So when you're there in the salah time, let's say that you do have knowledge. Allah Ta'ala has gifted you. MashaAllah, you've studied formally. You have tajweed, you have ulum, you know your fiqh, you know all these things. And now you're being humble, right? Oh no, you go. You go. No, you go. It's not time for that. At that time, you know your accomplishments. You know what you are. You know what Allah has given you. It's not a matter of pride to do what? Go and lead before someone else leads who probably... You don't know what's going to happen to the salah of everyone behind them, right? There's not humility at that time. You have to know your accomplishments, and you put yourself forward because now you have to. If you don't do it, the person who does it behind you will make the mistakes and maybe even ruin the ibadah of everybody. You get the point? So there's a time and place, right? Sometimes your accomplishments need to be known. Okay, no, wait a second. It's not time for that. Let me get up and lead before I, squash this argument right now. Oh, who's going to lead? Oh, you go, no, you go, no. That's not humility. You understand? So inshallah, we'll leave it at that. So we have a few minutes if people do have questions. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the tawfiq. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from this deadly and terminal disease. And Allah ta'ala remove it from the hearts of all those who may possess it. And may Allah protect us in the future also from ever falling prey to it. We ask this all out of His rahmah and mercy. And we ask for afiyah in all of our affairs and for the whole Muslim ummah across the world. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Jazakum Allah khair. No, it's not kibr. That's not out of pride, unless if a person is that evil that they literally, they would have to have the intention like, I know this is haram, and I believe, na'udhu billah, that's not even sin anymore, it's kufr. If you were to say, I know it's haram, but I don't believe it's wrong, and I think Allah, this is a mistake, and I'm going to do it anyhow. That attitude is not just, it's not just kibr, it's kufr. Istihza, you understand? Like istighfaf, and like if you commit a sin out of human weakness, that your shahwa overcomes you, and you just do it, but you know it's still haram, your iman is intact, right? If you do it, and the attitude is that, you know what, this is silly. Why is drinking khamr haram? That doesn't make any sense. It's a kibr in that sense that you're saying you know, and Allah doesn't. That's one aspect, but that's not what we would call it. We would say actually that forget kibr, this is kufr. You understand? This is actually kufr. It takes you out of Islam. So committing the sin will never take a person out of Islam, and it's not necessarily kibr. It may be audacity, audacity like jur'ah, like you're being pretty audacious, right? That I'm just going to do whatever I want anyhow. But it's not kibr per se. And if it is, it means that you're a kafir, because you're like literally saying Allah doesn't know what's going on and I don't care anyhow, I'm going to do it. And that also, if you forget kibr, that's also what? That's kufr itself. You're outside of the fold of Islam. May Allah protect us. Yes. What is it? That's not a hadith marfu' that I know of. And again, I don't know, maybe there are other ulama here, and maybe, but I've heard that statement before, that when you have takabbur in front of mutakabbir, it's sadaqah, right? I don't know if that's hadith marfu', meaning I don't know if that's attributed to the Prophet ﷺ, but I have heard that from many shuyukh and many ulama. The concept is sound in this respect, that what I mentioned earlier, that sometimes one has to exhibit a certain amount of, how do I put it? Like in the days, and Umar radiallahu anhu said this is mansukh, but when the Prophet ﷺ made hajj, and the Muslims made hajj, the first few tawaf, you're supposed to do what? You're supposed to walk, right? In not a haughty, but like a proud manner. Why was that done? It was to show the kuffar around them that now they have power and they cannot abuse them anymore. You understand? That's where that quote comes into play. That sometimes, like that brother said, don't go back to England and put your head down like this, and then some neo-Nazi skinhead or something ends up beating you up from pillar to post. No. In a time like that, one has to exhibit what? You have to show your strength. In jihad, Rasulullah once saw one of the Sahabi walking around with his chest out, shirt off, showing his strength and being boisterous and yelling and screaming things at the right. He said, Allah hates such behavior except at this point, at this place, because this is the time for it. That's what that saying means. You understand? If someone is exhibiting that kind of force with you, do it back. This is what Musa alayhi salam said to Fir'aun. And abatta bani Israel, oh, you've done so many favors to me, but you enslaved my people, right? Musa alayhi salam wasn't just going to take it like this, sitting down. He told him, he said, oh, okay, you're so special, you're so great, but you enslaved all my people, right? So there are times when you need to exert a little bit of confidence, right? A little bit of strength. This is what that quote means. But I don't know if it's attributed to the Prophet ﷺ, but the meaning is sound, because that's what it means. Wallahu a'lam. MashaAllah. Subhanallah. Yes. That's a deep question. Yeah, maybe we'll just leave it because that's a deep question. There's a lot to that question. Like, how do you, he said, like, the ayah of Surah Al-Duha, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, فَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ فَحَدِّثْ, right? Regarding the blessings of Allah, you should vocalize, you should proclaim it. You should tell people, I've been blessed with this, with that, right? And then what about the attitude of people like Fir'aun? He used to tell everyone, look at what I have. So there's the difference, obviously, is one is acknowledging Allah's fadl. To make it simple, one is acknowledging Allah's fadl on you. And say the wali Adam wala fakhr. I am the leader of all mankind without any pride. This is the blessing of Allah on me. It's not because of me. Whereas Fir'aun thought, Ana rabbukum al-a'la. Right? It is because of me that I have all these things. Or Qarun thought, ala ilmin. Right? It's because of my knowledge and my capacity and my abilities that I have all these things. That's the main difference. One is acknowledgement of the fadl of Allah, that this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَأَمَّا بِرَبِّكَ فَأَمَّا بِنِعْمَةِ رَبِّكَ, right? It is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The other is to say, no, this is me. أَنَا رَبُّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى. I'm the one who's doing all this. That's you could explain a lot more than that, but that's the primary difference. Wallahu a'lam. That one is acknowledgement of Allah's fadl, and the other is to say that it is me. Right? It is my accomplishment. Oh, no, yeah, you're right about that. Not only Iblis, but all of the proud people and Jabbarun, all the haughty people of this world that denied Iman and Islam and the prophets, is the same kibr of Iblis. Even the Yahud, the same kibr that prevented Iblis from submitting to Allah is the same kibr that the Yahud had that prevented them from accepting the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The same thing, that we are better. نحن أبناء الله وحباؤه. We're the chosen people, we're better, we're the children of Allah, the most beloved of Allah. How could this Arab get prophethood? No, we're the chosen people. That's why even today they try to tell people here that the one who is given the covenant by Allah, the ahd, that prophethood would be in his lineage was Ishaq, not Ismail alayhi salatu wasalam. This is what they try and tell people. So they can deny the prophethood of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. This is kibr. Let me just get to this quickly. So you talked about accepting truth right away. How do we distinguish if what they are saying is true? There are so many variations of Islam and they claim they're true. Okay, that's a different issue. It's not really, of course there are ways of verifying whether what somebody is saying is true or not. But that's a different subject and a different time. So all we're saying is that if you do recognize the truth, by whatever methodology you have, if the truth comes to you, and it's not debatable, because there are many variations of Islam. Actually, there's only one Islam, but there are many variations of how we can interpret certain issues of Islam which are not qata'i. That's a whole other issue, meaning they're not black and white. There are issues where differences of opinion can be there, and they are there, and we shouldn't worry about that. So there are even methodologies, even in that you can determine whether what you think something is, we shouldn't say true, but it makes more sense to me. It's murajjah. This makes more sense to me. But truth, that's a very big word, right? Right? It's a very big word. It means like it's something you cannot debate. Qata'i, like even in terms of dalil, we say qata'i, it means it's conclusive. It's something nobody debates. Everyone knows that it is what it is. Right? So truth, that's a hard word, right? Haqq, that nobody has another opinion about this, and they can't have another opinion about this. So this question, it's related, but it's not related. But all we're saying is that if the truth does come to you, and by whichever standards you have, you recognize it to be the truth, and you still deny it. And we don't even mean about opinions. Like I said, for instance, we could take simple examples like this that happens all the time. Let's say you see someone outside of your community, because your community happens to be the one that, mashallah, all these hufadh and people memorizing Quran and becoming ulama, and it happens to be from one community. Let's just put it that way. And all of a sudden someone from another community who is an alim, who is a hafiz, or who happens to know something about deen comes and speaks and you refuse to listen. Why? Simply put, because they're not from your community. This is an easier way of determining, because when you say the word truth, I'm sorry for using that word too, that's a very deep statement, right? It's a very deep statement. What is truth, right? But this is a very simple thing because you don't acknowledge what's in front of you. That is it possible for people outside of your community to accomplish these things? What's the answer? Of course. Can someone outside of your community actually know more than you? Yes. Can someone, Imam Sibawi, you've heard of him before? He's a grammarian in the old days. He wrote a book called Al-Kitab. He was Persian by descent. His story goes as such. He wrote, this is considered one of the best books written in Arabic grammar. When he used to speak Arabiya amongst the Arabs, they used to make fun of him because of his accent, because he was Persian. So he got so upset that he said, you know what, I'm going to learn Arabic so well, I'm going to be better than you, I'm going to beat you. And he wrote a book called Al-Kitab, which is the masterpiece and the ultimate book of Arabic grammar. Because he got upset. He said, okay, you're going to make fun of me because I have an accent. So people make fun of people when they come here too, like, oh, your English is horrible, listen to this guy, he sounds like a fob. Well, look at the uncle, he doesn't know what he's saying, everyone laughs, right? So it's like if the uncle went back and had revenge and he took an English course and excelled and then wrote a book in English literature and language, and everyone's like, oh wow, uncle knows more in English than we do even. Right? And he wasn't even born here. He doesn't. I understand. You can't judge people and you can't look down on them. Right? This is the main thing. If the truth comes to you and you see that actually no, you humble yourself. That yes, perhaps someone other than me can do a better job. Perhaps someone other than me can know the truth. Perhaps someone other than me can be better than me. That's why I mentioned yesterday, and I'll end at this, that even when it comes to kuffar, what should we think? That our belief system, our i'tiqad, is no doubt superior. It is the truth. But as a person, this man or woman may be very much more talented than I am, may be a better person than I am, that perhaps if Allah gives them Islam, they will excel me, and they will do better than me. This is how humble we have to be, that we don't know. Allah gives them hidayah and they could become better. لَا يَكُونُوا أَمْثَالَكُمْ. They won't be like you, right? They won't be like you, they'll be better than you. This is what Allah threatens us with even. Right? He'll do what? He'll change you with another people and they will not be like you, meaning they will be better. So that's ultimate humility, right? And one more only, inshallah. Right. Right. The only time you can force someone to live like a simple lifestyle, quote unquote, is if you have authority over them, like your children. If it's like a brother, a younger brother too, technically the older brother is in the position of a father, so to speak. If it's like, someone you don't have any authority over, you can't really do anything or say anything unless they're, again, violating the Sharia, you just keep quiet. If it's your son or someone you have certain authority over, then yeah, you as a father, you have the prerogative to do that. I'm going to teach my son how to be simple. I'm going to teach my son how to not value material things or whatever it may be, right? You can do that. But you can't do that to people you don't have, basically. Simply put, you don't have the imara, you don't have the authority. You just have to leave them alone. I'm sorry to keep on going, but the primary rule for al-amru bil ma'ruf wa nahyu anil munkar, to enjoin good and forbid wrong, you have to do it only in those issues which there's no, basically, honestly, difference of opinion. The only way you can do that if there's a difference of opinion is if you're a scholar. And even then, a scholar is only allowed to explain his position. He cannot force anyone to do what? Follow that position. He can give the dalil. This is why I think it's right. And he can tell you. He can explain it, but he cannot force anyone to follow that position. So for someone who doesn't have knowledge, is even more so, it's awla, that if it's not something that is expected of these people, right? Like that you said, like someone is living a life and you think maybe they're going too far into the dunya, right? But if you don't have the authority, really, you can't say anything about it. You can remind them that, okay, the akhirah, وَذَكِّرْ فَإِنَّ ذِكْرَى تَنْفَعُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, right? You can remind people, but you can't say anything like, directly to them, like this is halal or haram, or this is good, is not good. You understand? Wallahu alam. So inshallah we'll stop here. So the next session will begin. Jazakumullahu khairan kathira for everything. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.